Welcome to this instructional and tutorial video on how to make a square neck yoke for the top of a baby dress. This is a two-part series on where we will make a complete baby dress from the ages of newborn up to a size 10. A size 10 should probably fit a age 8, 9, or 10-year-old girl, depending on their weight and height. But I will show you how to make changes necessary so that you can make it to fit. Now, when we do our tutorial, this is to do a basic, simple half double crochet stitch and sometimes a double crochet stitch. Please keep in mind that this tutorial is to teach you the basics. You can, in the future, add your own stitches as you go around and make the collar, or the yoke, I should say. So, I'm going to tell you some of the things that we're going to be using for our tutorial part. For the yoke, the collar, which will go around the neck, we're using Bernat Baby Sport. This is a size 3. It's a light yarn. It is very soft and very easy to work with. And I'm using white because it's the most versatile color that we can use. I will also be using a size G 4.00 millimeter hook. We'll be using a pair of scissors. I forgot to show you, but we will also be using a tapestry needle. For the instruction part, I would like for you to get a tape measurer, one that is designed for taking measurements around the body, a pen or a pencil, and some clear paper, because I will be giving you the various sizes and chains and measurements that you will need for that particular size dress that you will make. So I hope we have a fun little journey here, and let's begin. Okay, everybody, say hello to Elsa. She is a 3-foot doll. A friend of mine gave her to me so that I can start making crocheted children's clothing. So I wanted to use her as an example of where to take your measurements when starting to make the yoke for the beginning of the clothes. The yoke consists of the shoulder area, around the neck, the shoulder, and to right under the arm, which basically in this is right here at the chest level. Okay, so the first thing that I want to show you is for a baby. This is how you would measure the baby's head. Okay, you want the largest part of the baby's head. For the chest area, you want to measure a little bit under the arms, and then we want to measure from the same area here to the same area on the back. Okay? And this will be our yoke area. Also remember too that through here it will come down just a little bit. So when we make our chain stitch for the smaller size dress that we're making, we want to make sure that the hole opening will come directly over the head. If not, then we will make an opening for the back, and then we will tie it either in the front or we will tie it in the back. For a small baby that is laying down, my suggestion is not to add hooks and eyes and buttons, because this will lay on the back of their spine, and we don't want to create any problems for the future for them in their developmental stages. So let's get our piece of paper and our pen ready, and let's start taking some notes for the particular dress size that you would like to make. Here I made a chart. I hope that you have decided which size dress you would like to make. So for our age, I put right here. There's more on my paper, so we will go down. And over here is the chain for the neckline. The center around the neck is where we will start, and we will work our way out to the sides. So if you were choosing to make newborn to 3 months, you would chain 54. 3 months to 6 months is a chain 54 as well. 6 months to 12 months is chain 58. Now as your child gets older, the neck size may not be large enough to slide over their head. So for 12 months to 18 months, you want to chain 63. For a button type closure, if they're sitting up, we're going to add 5. This will make it so that, let me show you a little piece of paper here. As it comes around, here you have your one end, and you can bring it over like this, and a button will fit in between the stitches. Okay? So for 18 months to 2 years, you would chain 66 plus 5 for a button closure. If no closure is required for the button, for this particular basic square yoke collar, neckline, top of the dress, you can always make chains to tie a bow in the back, and it will look just as cute. So if you don't want to add the 5, that's quite all right. We can always tie it. But it's best that once you make the chain, to bring it around and then see if you can place it over your child's head without it being tight. So for 3-year-olds, you want a chain of 72. For 4 and 5-year-olds, you want a chain of 80. 6-year-olds, chain of 86. Now remember, plus 5 if you want the button closure. 7 and 8-year-olds, chain 92. And 9 and 10-year-olds, chain 100. Now age may be the same size, such as 3-year-olds sometimes wear a 3T, 4-year-olds could wear a 4T, 5, 6, 7 can wear 5, 6, 7T. So the size of your child and the size of the clothing will also determine on what size. Now say like if you have a 3-year-old, but your 3-year-old is already wearing 5Ts, then it would be suggested that you go up to the chain 80. So try to keep in mind with what size clothes that particular child is wearing at this time, and this will help give you a guide. I stopped at 10 years old because I feel that if this is your first project, you might not want to do an 11 or 12-year-old. Usually by that time they're choosing their own clothes. So now that you have your chain for the neckline for whatever size you wanted to do, let's continue on with our information. I'm going to be using the newborn to 6 month as the most information given, because everything that we're doing will be the same step by step wise, even though the sizes and everything will be different. Okay, sometimes we have the head size and sometimes we have the chest size. As I got into larger sizes, I found that everything was varied, so we can always add stitches as we go along. This picture here shows this square going around right here. This is your neck area. This would be the opening. You could have it either in the front or in the back if the chain did not fit over the child's head. We can make it so it will open here, and we can place some chain stitches to help it to close when it's completed. The number here will say how many stitches to that corner before we place a V-stitch. That will be our addition for each row until we go down. In this case, we're going to start here with 8, place a V-stitch on that 8th stitch, come down 11, and on that 11th stitch place a V-stitch, go across 16 and place a V-stitch, 11, V-stitch, 8. Now if your closure was closed, then we would slip stitch and go up to the next row. So as we increase on each row, we will be increasing by 1. So the number are how many stitches per side at the beginning into that chain stitch right here. Okay, so if you add up all of these numbers, it will equal the 54 chains. So like I said, I have this for each size up to the 10 years old. Check to see if the hole, which would be your chains, fit over the child's head. If not, do not close to make a circle. We will turn and go back. And in the tutorial part, I will show you that. A chain will make a bow and it will close in the back. So here we're having, when we add, this is this up here, this is the, whoops, this is the fold right here. So if you come down here, you'll see that we folded it and come down. Okay, and here's, this would be like 5 or 6 stitches. This would be 16 stitches. Okay, and then, you know, right here would be 8 stitches, and 8 or 16. Okay, so right here on the side would be the arm opening, and this would be half of the chest amount, because at the bottom right here we will make a join where the back half will join to the front half, and this will be the arm opening here. Okay, so let's move on to the next size. So for newborn to 6 months, these are the numbers that you will need: 8, 8, 11, 16, 11. Okay, let's move on to the next page. For 6 months to 12 months, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the numbers. As you can see, either we can open it or we can keep it as one circle. The head size is usually about 18 inches. The chest is 19 to 20 inches. Now, of course, each one of these will differ. If the chest size is bigger, we can always add another row around. So everything will be okay here. So for 6 to 12 months, we have 9, 9, V-stitch, 12, V-stitch, 18, V-stitch, 12, V-stitch, 9. So our finished size for this should be 2 7/8 across for the shoulders. Now for the arms, I didn't really have a measurement, but we will get that as we create it. So an across should be 9 1/16. Of course, down here is where we will add and attach our other side for the hole opening for the arm. Okay, so this is for 6 to 12 months. Let's move on to the next size. (12 to 18 months). I will just leave the picture here so you can write it down. 10, 10, 12, 19, and 12. It might be 20. No, but yeah, it's not. Okay? And so here's the measurements. It should be about 3 inches on the shoulder, about 5 1/8, and 9 1/2 at the chest. For 18 months to 2 years old, 10, 10, 13, 20, and 13. 18 to 2 years old, the width of the shoulders should be 3 1/16. The width at the neckline should be 5 3/8, and the chest should be 9 7/8. Alright, so as you can see, I have the page with 3 years old and 4 and 5 years old up here. So for the 3-year-olds, we have 11, 11, 14, 22, 14. For the 4 and 5-year-olds, 12, 12, 16, 24, 16. This is for the 3-year-olds. The width of the shoulder should be 3 1/8. The neck should be 5 1/2. And the chest should be 10 1/4. For the 4 and 5-year-olds, 3 1/2 inch shoulder, 6 inch neck, 10 3/4 inch chest. Let me hold that up for you in case you need to write it down. Okay. If at any time you need to pause the video, I encourage you to do this. Okay, and here's our last page. We have our 6-year-olds. I'll place my finger below it. So you'll have 13, 13, 17, 26, and 17. 14, 14 for the 7 and 8-year-olds. 18, 28, 18 for the 9 and 10-year-olds. 15, 15, 20, 30, and 20. For our 6-year-olds right here, 4-inch shoulders, 5 7/8 inch neck, and 11.5 chest. Okay, and I made a mistake here. Sorry about that. This should be, I wrote it, I was in a hurry when I wrote it because I wanted to make this right for you. Okay, so for the size 7 and 8-year-olds, let's come on down. The shoulders should be 4 3/8. The neck should be 6 1/4. And the chest should be 11 7/8. And for the 9 and 10-year-olds, the shoulders should be 4 3/4. The neck should be 6 3/8. And the chest should be 12 3/8. So, let's move on to our yarn, where we will start to make the chains. The one that I will be making for Elsa is the, let's see, the 18-month to 2 years one. So I will be chaining 66 plus 5. So for mine, this is what I'm going to do. Okay? Everything that we are going to be doing will be done the exact same way. The only thing is you need to refer to your chart for how many chains and your chart for how many stitches before the V-stitch. Okay? So let's get our yarn and our hook out and let's begin. To help simplify what I am going to do, besides the information I have here, I am going to write here chain 66 and plus 5 if I feel that the ring does not fit around her head. But I will probably go ahead and do the plus 5 anyway to show you how to make a neck opening if needed. Or I can do that as a separate one. So with my yarn, I'm going to place a slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to begin my chaining. So chain however many you need for the size dress that you need, and when you get to the amount that you want, join it together to make a circle and see if you can place that circle over the child's head. Now if it's for a gift and you're not sure, you can kind of go with the measurements that I offered. So go ahead and do your chain and pause your video. I'll see you in just a second. After you have chained the desired amount, take and make sure that your chain is straight. No twists, no turns. And then bring the very first chain onto your hook and do a slip stitch. Okay, and then chain 2 or 3, and that'll help keep it from opening up anymore. Now if your child is close by, see if you can take this opening and place it over the child's head. If you cannot, I'll show you how to start a different way. Okay? So here, here's the circle way. If you can fit it, you're going to chain 2, and then in that same first stitch, because that does count, place 1 half double crochet. For the number that was on the side that showed what you needed, let me bring this one up. Your first number here, you want to half double crochet that many times, and on the last number make a V-stitch. So let me show you here. I'm just going to go ahead and do a few. So you want to do 1 in the first stitch. So to make a half double crochet, I guess I should say, yarn over, and in that same stitch that we did a slip stitch, we're going to bring up a loop and then yarn over and through all 3 loops. Makes it just a little bit taller than the single crochet. So in this case I have 9, so here's 2, 3, 4. The foundation row is usually the longest. Okay, so let's pretend I'm at 9. Okay, so if this was number 8, my 9th stitch, I will do a half double crochet, chain 1, and a half double crochet in the same stitch. That is called a V-stitch. The chain 1 space will be where we will place additional stitches on the next row. So now that you have this 1 right here in the same stitch as number 9, this will now be known as number 1, and in this case I will come down 12. So here I already have number 1, and here's 2, and I will keep on going down until I do number 12, and then I will chain 1 and do the V-stitch, which basically brings the first stitch for this direction. So that would be number 1, and I would go down to number 18. Okay, so go ahead and do that all the way around. When you get to the end, you will slip stitch into the top of the chain 2. And then I'll show you what to do for the next row. For those who found that they cannot take the circle and place it over their head, let's add 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? And in the 3rd chain from your hook, do not count the one on your hook. 1, 2, and in that 3rd one, place a half double crochet. So of the 5, we've used 1 and 2. Okay, so now here we are at our first number. So in this case, for this particular size, I will do 9 stitches. So to add to this, I will just do 9 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3. Like I said, the first row is usually the hardest. Okay, 3. So pretend this is number 8, and here's number 9. I'm going to chain 1, and in the same stitch I'm going to place another half double crochet. This will be number 1, as I just showed for the circle one, of the 12 needed to go down this side. Okay, so go ahead and go all the way around till you get to the end of the chain. Then you will chain 2 and turn your work and come back. You'll notice that when you start to come back on this particular row for this size, you will have one more number than the 9. So you will have 10 half double crochets. You'll chain 1, and in the same stitch, which should be your chain 1 space, add your first half double crochet, go in the second direction. You will have a shape of a square forming already. So go ahead and start that, and I'll go ahead and complete the first row for the opening. So after the completion of row 1, this is for if you have the opening. Okay, so the opening will overlap it by 2, and you'll see how we have our square. So in our picture where our line is, this would be our opening if we chose to put one in. If you're doing the circle, you should slip stitch right into the top of the chain 2, so it will be all together right here. All right? Let's move on to row 2. For those that have the opening, you would take it and turn your work. And this chain 2 would be for this first hole right here. So in the next hole, you would place your first double crochet. Remember to count your chain 2 as 1. For those doing the circle, you would be doing the same thing. So we'll continue down until we get to our first V-stitch. Now if you feel that you need stitch markers, I encourage you to use them, or you can use small pieces of yarn. But in this case, you can see where the 2 stitches are here together in that one chain stitch. So what we will do right here, we will place 1 half double crochet, chain 1, and 1 half double crochet in the same stitch opening. And then we will continue on. Now this one here will already take care of what is called the hidden stitch, so you can move on to the next one. Alright, and you will keep on going until you get to this side, and you will repeat this, increasing each row by 1 at each V-stitch. And let's see right here, yeah, this would be 1, and then this would be 1, so you would increase it by 2. So keep on going until you have what the measurements call for at the shoulder. And let's line this up again. Let me turn it over. And this is our little closure point. So right here is your shoulder. So in your picture, you will do however many rows you need until the width from here, whoops, I'm out of camera range, I'm sorry, till the width from here to what it says for the shoulder, you have that many rows completed. So go ahead and do that, and when you're done, I'll meet you when you're finished. You will probably do about 4 or 5 rows. I guess with all the rambling that I do, let me show you what to do when you get to the end. You want to chain 2, turn your work, and remember to skip your first one, and half double crochet across up to your V-stitch area again. You can see I've already completed 2 rows. I'm working on my 3rd, and you can see how it's already starting to form the square look here. So can you see how the V-stitch stacks on top of each other? Let's keep moving on. So as you can see here, I have done 4 rows. I am not done yet. I had to change Elsa's size because of her measurements. So I am making the neckline for the 6 to 12 months, which I changed 58. Okay, so as you can see here, we went around and then we turned around and came back. But if you were doing the circular one, you would slip stitch, chain 2, and just keep right on going. Okay, so as you get here, you find that you may have to stretch it just a little bit. All right, now let's go down to our second picture. My second picture here says that my shoulder width should be 2 7/8 and my neck should be 5 inches wide. So here I have, man, I'm good. I hate to say it, but I shocked myself, okay? Because I really didn't think that it was going to turn out this way. Anyway, so I have 5 inches. Woohoo! So with the G hook, I am getting the right size. So I am going to continue on. I need to place, we need to go to 7/8 right here. So if we get a gauge of how many, so about 2 rows equals about 15, 16, 7/8 of an inch. So I'll probably be doing 3 more rows for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. I will do a total of 7 rows. Okay? And when I get this collar done, I will show you what it will look like on Elsa. And like I showed you before, this one side will have more because of the 2 extra than what we had on the other side. So this will overlap just a little bit so you can place buttons here or whatever you choose. Now if you chose not to add the placket, it would just line up as such. And the same as if it was a circular one. So keep on going, and I'll see you after I complete 3 rows. So here's what I have after 7 rows. You can see I have the 2 7/8 inches. So I am happy to see that my measurements are on spot. And now that we've come to this point, if you have the opening, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and cut your yarn and pull it through. Alright, you can go ahead and snug it up a little bit and make sure that everything is square and even. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is I want to place it on Elsa to make sure that the neck opening does not droop too low, that everything shoulder-wise will fit her, and that our from the neck to our chest area is the right length. So let me set up Elsa and we'll see how this works. As you can see, I have placed Elsa's collar on her. The back part is in the same location as the front, and you can see here it's at the chest, which is right under the arms. If I take this out, you can see here I have the front, so I can have either a front closure or I can spin it around and this would be a back closure. Okay? So the next row that we're going to do is we're going to do the closure of the underarm, which will bring this down and we can start creating a sleeve. Now before we move on, we want to weave in our straggled edges. Now if you're doing where yours is closed all the way, do not cut your yarn. We're going to continue on from there because the closing of the sleeves will be exactly the same. And here's our arm opening. But for the ones with the closure here, the stopping and starting will be a little bit different. So go ahead and weave in your ends for the closure one, and we'll get started with the next row in just a second. So with the one with the closure, the one side is longer than the other side. What I would like for you to do is the one that is longer to place it on the bottom. You'll have 2 stitches, well, your chain stitch and then your first double crochet is going to be overlapped by 2 stitches from the other side. So let's go ahead and place a slip knot on our hook. And pinch those 2 ends together. And we're going to start with a slip knot. So I'm going to go through the second. Let's see, here's the chain, and here's that first double crochet. And I'm going to pick up that last stitch here. And then I'm going to do a slip stitch. For those that are doing the circular, this is where you're going to chain 2. So for our closure ones, let's chain 2. And for our closure ones, we're going to go through the stitch on the back, and we'll go through the first stitch on the front. Whoops, I'm sorry. We're going to be making a half double crochet. So go through those 2, the one on the front and one on the back, and that'll make it so that your closure is now 1. You can see how it overlaps just that little bit. Alright, and let's move on. Continue. I'm going to go ahead and pick up another chain stitch just for a really good closure on that that one piece. So I'll have basically 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's continue on with our half double crochets till we get till the end of our row. Now, knowing that everybody has a different amount, you just go to where you get to your V stitch. So and the nice thing about this is I'm not really counting stitches, but the stitch amount does seem to come out accurately. So okay, so I'm starting a half double crochet in my chain 1 space. Now I'm going to directly across go to the other chain 1 space and make a oops, I took my yarn too soon. So through the 2 chain 1 spaces, and I'm going to make 1 half double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 because we will place a stitch in there, and I'll do another to secure it. So we'll have 2 half double crochets in that 1 space. Then continue on with your half double crochets along the center. See, this is our long end right here. So continue till we get to this other side, and I'll meet you there. Now if you get ahead of me and you want to go ahead and place in your V-stitch there, go ahead and do that. So here I am at my next chain 1 space. So I'm going to yarn over, go through the 1 chain 1 space, make sure it's straight, and pick up the other side chain 1 space and place my half double crochet, chain 1, and half double crochet. Then I'm going to continue around till I get to my chain 2, once I get to the chain 2, I will slip stitch to the top of chain 2 and cut my yarn. I hope that you stay with me. This will conclude part 1. Part 2 will be in a separate video where we will do sleeves, the waistband, the skirt, and the decorative trim. So here I am at the end, and I'm going to slip stitch to the top and cut my yarn. Alright, so here we have our little arm opening, we have our closure, we have another arm opening, so it looks like our picture now, doesn't it? Okay, I'll have to straighten this out a little bit. And here is the other side. Now if you choose to have this as the back or the front, that's fine. Some suggestions though, like if in this row you wanted to do bobbles or X's or a fillet stitch, you can do that. This is a basic, but it's so versatile that you could do pretty much any stitch to make it decorative. So, thank you for watching part 1. Please join me again for part 2, where we will finish this little dress that you can make for your child or as a gift for a friend's child. I'm sure that they will really, really like it. Like I said, we will do sleeves here, we'll do a decorative trim, we'll add the waistband and the skirt. Till then, bye-bye.